another episode of Well-Adjusted Mama. I'm your host, Dr. Laura Brayton, and today's guest is Benjamin Schoeffler, speaking on medical hypnosis and the mind-body connection. Benjamin Schoeffler is a medical hypnotist with a private practice in Boise, Idaho. In his practice, he specializes in helping people overcome anxiety, sleep better, and build new habits. He does this using a variety of psychological techniques, hypnosis, and practical neuroscience. He is the founder of the website BrilliantSide.com, which strives to empower people to change their lives for the better. On Brilliant Side, you can find the blueprints to improve your sleep, reduce stress, begin a meditation practice, and find out how you can change your brain. There is a vibrant community on Brilliant Side, which can help keep you accountable and a place where you can share your own successes and struggles. Welcome, Benjamin, to the show. I'm so excited to have you on today.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm really excited for this talk here.
Yeah, so we're going to be focusing on the power of medical hypnosis and the mind-body connection and how that relates to women during pregnancy, birth, and beyond. And this is such a topic that's near and dear to my heart because I am such a believer in the mind-body connection, and it's something that has certainly impacted my life. And so I love speaking to other individuals who have their pulse, on how to support people in becoming aware of subconscious thoughts and then learning how to shift and move past those limiting beliefs. So this is going to be a fun interview.
I'm super looking forward to it.
Excellent. So, Benjamin, I'd love for you to start off and just share with the audience a little bit more about who you are, why you chose to go into hypnosis, and, some of the things that you've been able to accomplish through that modality.
Sure. Well, I'll kind of give you the Cliff Notes origin story of mine. A bunch of years ago, I guess almost 10 years ago now, I was working at Google as a contractor, and I was listening to a radio show, and on this radio show they had a hypnotist come on. And this hypnotist said that they specialized in quality of life and pain management for cancer patients and burn victims. And hearing this, I was absolutely blown away because in my mind up to that point, I thought hypnosis was fake or that people were kind of going along with it. I didn't realize you could do actual things like really affect pain, affect how the body responds just by changing different thoughts in your mind. And so I eventually, after that radio show, I read as many books as I could. I eventually did a bunch of research online. I found some in-person mentors, and then I went to a couple different schools in Southern California, and then I started my private practice up here in Boise, Idaho, about 4 years ago now. And I've been working with all sorts of people for anxiety and pregnancy and insomnia, really kind of anything that involves the mind-body connection I kind of see and work with.
That is so cool. And I mean, I love how you kind of took a leap of faith there where you're like, oh, I don't really believe in this. And then you just did your research, you stayed open-minded, and now here this is what you're practicing.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing about hypnosis is there is so many myths and misconceptions out there. And part of that is because of the stage shows and people's interaction with that, and we can talk about that later if you want, kind of the secrets of some of the stage shows, but also because when I see clients, people get results really quickly, like a lot faster than sometimes other modalities, even if they've been struggling with something for a long time, and so it can almost seem magical in a way, and that's a good thing, and it can also be a bad thing as well, because hypnosis has this reputation of almost being magic, but it's not magic. It's just how the brain works, and it's just how the body responds.
That's true. I mean, it really is just like neuroscience. It's really, now that we're learning more and more about how the brain does work, there's so much that we still don't know. But as through science, we're actually recognizing how the power of our thoughts actually can change the biochemistry and how that can actually impact the physical body. So Science has proven that, and in the past 20, 30 years, we've learned so much more about how that works. And so this is actually a true science, and it's exciting. It's exciting to know this is out there. So, I'd love for you to just start off with sharing with our audience a little bit, maybe more about what is hypnosis and how it works.
Yeah, sure. So hypnosis, well, maybe it's better to start off with what it isn't. It's not magic and it's not mind control. When people come into my office, I don't turn them to robots or zombies or anything like that. If that was the case, I just have people robbing banks for me or something. That's not what I do. But what it is, and the way I view it, is a state of heightened learning, where you can learn things a lot faster than you can normally. And you can also unlearn false beliefs or negative habits or things that are kind of holding you back. And so when people come into my office, I'll just kind of describe a first session. I get to know a person for about 30 or so minutes, and then I'll explain some hypnosis and how it works with the brain, because you're right. Modern hypnosis is really about practical neuroscience and practical psychology and doing things that actually really work. And when a person is in hypnosis, everyone experiences it differently. If maybe, Laura, have you ever driven home from work or from the grocery store or something like that, and you're just sort of on autopilot? Have you ever done that?
I have.
Yeah, I think everyone kind of, especially if you've been on a road trip or something, you kind of get into that trance-like state. And that is a state very, very similar to hypnosis. The only real difference is in my office or other hypnotist's office, we kind of trigger that state on purpose for that person's own best benefit. And oftentimes it's a little bit deeper than what you might experience in a car. But what's important to know about that is when you feel that trance-like state when you are driving or doing something automatically, you don't feel like you're in a trance. You don't feel out of it. You just feel like, oh, I'm just kind of zoned out right now. And hypnosis kind of triggers that on purpose in order to learn a lot faster.
Okay, cool.
And so
yeah, go a little bit more into detail, please.
Yeah, sure. So when it comes to hypnosis and the kind of mind-body connection, there's so much data coming out right now, especially because as we learn about, as we develop different tools. In fact, I just read a study just 3 or so weeks ago about Stanford, how they have scanned people's brains with fMRI machines, and then they've put them under hypnosis, and they see different areas of the brain are actually kind of working, and working more when you're in that trance-like state than when you are in just a normal awake state. And so the basis of hypnosis, and this is what I tell all of my clients, is hypnosis can feel cool. It can feel like a very almost spiritual experience sometimes. It can feel like a very relaxing, deep meditation sometimes. Other times it doesn't really feel like anything. It's just like you're sitting there with your eyes closed listening to me talk. But the magic of hypnosis happens over the next few weeks as automatic behaviors start changing, as things that used to bother you just don't bother you anymore. And that's because the brain, the subconscious, is really learning a new way to live and to process information. And that's the true magic of hypnosis, is accessing that unconscious or subconscious mind. I use those two terms interchangeably, to really have the maximum impact. If you want, I can talk a little bit about how hypnosis impacts the brain, or we can kind of shift and move wherever you want to drive this conversation.
Yeah, I'm realizing it would be worth explaining the difference between the conscious and subconscious mind. If you could go into a little more detail about that.
Yeah, totally. So we've all heard that anecdote out there that you only use 10% of your brain, and that's not exactly true. We use all of our brain, but a lot of it is under subconscious control. It's kind of the automatic thoughts and behaviors and beliefs and habits. That's the part of you that controls all the automatic functions of your body, including blood flow and all the hormones that are released in different times. It also controls a lot of your beliefs, how you think about yourself, how you think about love, how you think about money. All of these things are controlled by your subconscious mind. And so it's a pretty powerful part of yourself. So if we can get that part of you on your side, then it can have some massive positive changes take place. And the example that I like to use is if you've ever seen a horse and a jockey or that movie Seabiscuit. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's sort of like that. It's the conscious mind is sort of like the jockey, which is a 100-pound little guy on top of a 1,000-pound, really big, powerful horse. And it's the horse that's really doing most of the work. It's the thing it's running the race and doing stuff like that. And when it comes to changing, you can teach the jockey different techniques, different strategies. And in this example, that's like counseling or self-help books or things you're doing consciously to better manage the horse. But hypnosis is talking directly to the horse, almost like a horse whisperer in a way, because the subconscious mind is so powerful that if the horse doesn't want to race, if it just wants to go eat hay or something like that, that's what the horse is going to do, and the jockey can't really do too much about it. And so when you get the horse on your side, both you and the jockey, both your conscious and your subconscious mind can really move forward in a really fantastic way, and a lot of really positive changes can take place in a very short amount of time, which is pretty awesome and pretty exciting. It's why I love my job. I get to see a lot of amazing changes happen really quickly.
Totally. I have, there's a hypnotherapist here in the office, Patrick, and he's been on a previous podcast episode, and I've worked with him several times, and it is really cool and exciting if you can start to become aware of perhaps some habits or just beliefs, limiting beliefs, typically that have been there since your very early childhood. That's what I find. Our subconscious mind is really formed like under the age of 5. And and then even as an adult, like logically those beliefs don't make sense, but they're still running the show, like you mentioned, and because we're not aware of them, they're subconscious. So by working with a hypnotherapist, a hypnotist, you can actually start to recognize those limiting beliefs, those subconscious beliefs, and actually create that change while you're in that state. So it is really cool if you're looking to move forward and you're like, maybe you're feeling stuck or you're just feeling like there's something not quite right here, and maybe you can't put your finger on what it is. You don't know quite, where or when it began. That's where something like this can be so powerful. And that's really also what separates it from like traditional psychotherapy, I find, because psychotherapy, you can really only talk about the things that you're conscious of. And to your point, you can make changes that way. But what about the other 90%, And so that's the power of tapping into the subconscious mind and, making those changes.
Yeah, totally. And like I was saying, modern hypnosis is really based on a lot of neuroscience and stuff like that. And I really view myself as helping the brain learn, because the brain really learns in 3 major ways. It learns through new experiences, and a lot of times when someone comes sees me in my office, that's the first time they've ever seen a hypnotist. So already their brain is primed to learn. One of the other ways that the brain learns is through repetition, and I will repeat myself a lot in my hypnosis sessions because that's just one of the ways that the brain really gets that information really deep down. And one of the last ways that the brain learns is through heightened emotional experiences. And this can be like a very traumatic experience. You can learn a fear or phobia really quickly. And it can also be a very relaxing experience too. You can learn in that way. And when I put someone in a hypnotic trance, they are in a much more relaxed state than normal. But that also, once you kind of know that about the brain, that's how the brain learns, is through those new experiences, through repetition, and through emotional states, you can recognize that happens a lot. Even, I bet you a lot of people in your audience, maybe this is the very first time they've been pregnant, or maybe they're about to give birth, and that's the very first time that's happened, and that's an emotional thing as well. So already their brain is really set to learn, primed to learn new behaviors, new beliefs based on that experience.
That's right.
So go ahead.
I was just going to say, so yeah, to your point, like if let's say you are pregnant and it's your first time being pregnant, so there's so much new stuff coming at you, the way your body is feeling and the way your body is looking, everything is changing around you in a very rapid way, actually. What can you say to that woman during her pregnancy where maybe some fear is coming up for her because of this new experience that's unknown, or the upcoming birth that she might be fearful of because she's never experienced it before?
Mm-hmm. Well, I see people in my private practice that are pregnant or they're about to give birth, and I've helped women do that. And one thing that I found really interesting, I didn't really realize this until I started working with pregnant clients, is a lot of the time if someone comes into a room, into a party, and they're pregnant, the women, sometimes the men, will start telling horror stories of pregnancy in a way. Like, oh, this happened to me. I was giving birth for 24 hours or 48 hours, and it was horrible. They had to do a C-section and yada, yada, yada. And when you're in that prime state of learning, because this is your very first pregnancy, you're kind of absorbing that in a conscious way or subconscious way, and that can start to create more anxiety or to create more fear. So really my advice would be to be careful about conversations that you have around you, because even if you, quote unquote, are trying to ignore it consciously, your subconscious mind is picking up on that. So really be aware of who you surround yourself with. Be aware of the conversations you have. That doesn't mean put your head in the sand and ignore all eventualities, but it means to prepare, but also have a positive outlook, because as you know, that mind-body connection is really powerful. So if you are thinking positively, then your body will start to follow.
That's right. And I mean, actually with those positive thoughts and just doing things to help you feel good during your pregnancy, like getting chiropractic adjustments and massage, prenatal yoga, things that are going to help your body feel good, and then things that are going to help relax and calm you, which is so important during pregnancy. That actually will change the biochemistry of your body, and that impacts the baby. The baby is actually getting those biochemical changes through the way you're feeling and thinking during the pregnancy. So I completely agree with you that you really want to surround yourself with people that are going to be positive, have positive things to say, are helpful, supportive, and, the negative Nancys, you take a break from them, because they're people that you don't necessarily want to hang around with anyways, whether you're pregnant or not, but they're really, I feel like you're even going to be more sensitive to that negativity during the pregnant period of your life. And, it's such a short amount of time that it's just really crucial to be super aware of who you're around, like you said. And then even like things like watching the news, like maybe you're going to start to limit the exposure to news, because there's a lot of negativity out there in the news. And even though it may not be specific to pregnancy and birth, it's still traumatic, right? If you're hearing about these murders and rapes and other things going on in the world, it's just kind of best to almost shelter yourself a little bit, because you don't have to know you don't need to know all those details. It's just not going to serve you in the way you're feeling and functioning and preparing for this upcoming birth.
Yeah, the world will still turn without you paying attention to every little thing. And and I think that it's really good to start to bring in other experts into this. You don't have to do this all alone. Just like you said, Laura, like chiropractic adjustment is really good, especially as you're connecting with your body more. Hypnobirthing or going to a hypnotist is also really good, and any other avenue to bring people in to really help support you during this time, because it can be a really beautiful experience, even if it is a difficult experience as well.
Right, exactly. But the more your subconscious mind is primed for this positive experience with the birth, typically the better the outcome, for sure. Because even when a woman's in labor, if she starts to feel afraid, not safe, not supported during the labor process, it can actually create changes in the way the labor progresses, and it can change the outcome of the birth. So, there's so much research out there that shows how the way you think and feel even while you're in labor can make a huge difference in the type of birth you have. And that's what's so cool about hypnobirthing is you can practice during pregnancy before the labor process of learning how to kind of condition your mind with affirmations and really staying focused on the positive to help move through that difficult, process. Labor is called labor for a reason. It's not easy, but it's also can be extremely, it can be really such an amazing experience for a woman to go through if she's feeling safe, supported, loved, and ready to meet, bring this baby into the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember working with a client last year. It was, I think, her second or third kid. Actually, it was her second, I believe, because I remember her first one did not go very well. It was a little bit of a nightmare, that one pregnancy. And so we worked together for a few sessions before her birth, and she was so much more relaxed, and her body was responding in a relaxed way that and she was also dealing with the physical pain so much better because of the hypnosis that she ended up giving birth much faster than she anticipated, and her husband and even the nurses didn't think she was as far along as she was because she was so calm and so relaxed. And I think the nurse actually ended up delivering the baby because they couldn't get the doctor in time because they didn't think she was that far along. So that just really illustrates that mind-body connection can really affect you on a very physical level. And actually, one more story, if you don't mind, is there was another client that I worked with who she was pregnant, and she was maybe a month or two out, and she came to me. We did one session together, and she had been having horrible morning sickness her entire pregnancy. And after that one session, she never was sick again until probably years down the road or something like that. But so one session can really make a big impact when it starts to affect that subconscious part of your mind that really impacts all the physical parts of your body, including your stomach as well. So it's something I think worth exploring, whether you do it through the HypnoBabies program. And full disclaimer, I'm not certified with the HypnoBabies program. I do hypno kind of birthing on my own, using my own protocol. But the HypnoBabies thing is awesome, and I've had people have a lot of success with that as well.
Right. I mean, this is such a good point. Like, if there's any physical symptoms that are coming up, during, let's say, pregnancy, it is worth exploring, a safe, natural modality like hypnosis to help, whether it's the morning sickness or it's, fear about the upcoming birth or whatever it may be. Even the baby's position can certainly be impacted by hypnosis, and it's drug-free, and so it's just something that I think it's just anytime you're looking to move forward. And the other way, and I'm glad you kind of touched on this, and I've seen it a lot in my office when I have a second-time mom in my office who's had a traumatic first birth. There's really some PTSD that can exist for mom and baby after a traumatic birth. And during the second pregnancy, her subconscious mind is already creating these horrors because she actually went through a bad experience. And so the subconscious mind believes that you're pregnant again, therefore you're going to create the same experience that we had the first time. And it's really helpful to work with a hypnotherapist or hypnosis hypnotist to shift that. It's like, okay, that did happen, and this is a whole nother pregnancy. This is a whole different birth, and I don't have to have that same horrible experience, that emergency C-section after being in labor for 3 days. Like I can actually have a VBAC, and I can have it, without medication, and it can be in a shorter amount of time, and all these things because the body's relaxed, the mind is feeling clear. When the body is relaxed during labor, the cervix is able to dilate. The cervix is a sphincter-like muscle. When we're scared and we're in pain, what do our sphincters do? They tighten and close. So how is a baby going to be able to move through the birth canal when that's happening, right? So it makes so much sense that if you're able to mentally relax through hypnosis, you're able to actually physically relax the pelvic floor and the cervix and open for birth.
Oh yeah, completely.
Yeah.
So do you work with clients all the way up until their pregnancy? Because I would imagine that as a chiropractor, can you actually adjust maybe even the hip structure or something? I'm just curious on a personal level.
Yeah, totally. I'm like, wait a second, you're asking the questions here. It's really fun.
Sorry. I'm just curious.
Yeah, it's a great question, and there could be listeners listening that aren't familiar with chiropractic during pregnancy. So yes, chiropractors can adjust women throughout their pregnancy, even including first trimester, and certainly the end of the pregnancy is really vital because the pelvis becomes the birth canal. So if the pelvis is out of alignment, then that can actually create a lot more difficulty in moving the baby through the birth canal. There's really a small window between the size of the baby's head and the size of the pelvic basin. And so we can see why even a subtle shift out of alignment can actually make that hole smaller. And that's where you hear these horror stories of babies that are like jamming their heads on a woman's pelvis to try to move through the canal during labor, and they're stuck, and then that becomes an emergency C-section, and that's typically because that woman's pelvis was out of alignment. So getting adjusted during pregnancy is helpful for so many reasons, but definitely easier labor and delivery is one of them.
Yeah, and it makes sense just to almost to pre-pave the road that you're going down by kind of preparing, whether that be preparing with hypnosis or preparing with chiropractor or other things as well, because there's a lot of data out there that says that doing hypnosis before surgeries or before birth, it can actually cause the body to bleed less and to produce a lot of those kind of numbing hormones, so you're actually feeling a lot less pain as well too. And so if you kind of get everything lined up, it's a much more likely scenario that you'll have an easier birth and a healthier birth as well too.
Yeah, totally. And, I wanted to also just maybe, because I'm just kind of realizing that we didn't really explore going through the differences between like medical hypnosis, hypnotherapy, and counseling. And, I know there's a lot of similarities between them. So maybe you can just elaborate a little bit more on the differences.
Yeah, sure. So I'm a certified medical hypnotist, and really all that means is I'm certified with the IMDHA, which is the International and Medical and Dental Hypnotherapy Association. And it means that I have a certain level of training, and I've chosen to focus on the medical side of things, really the mind-body connection, because it really interests me. Because when I was reading about stuff about James Braid in the 1800s doing amputations with hypnosis as the only anesthetic, that was fascinating for me. Or even reading modern-day stories and news stories about people undergoing dental procedures with no anesthetic, only using hypnosis. That was really fascinating, and I kind of wanted to be in that field. So that's what a medical hypnotist does. What a hypnotherapist does is they're a lot like a medical hypnotist, but they might not have my same level of training. They might not have chosen to focus on that. Maybe they're focused on some other aspect of the mind, maybe trauma recovery or something like that. And really how they differ.
Both are using hypnosis.
Yes, both are using hypnosis for sure. And a counselor, they're really working with that conscious part of the mind, teaching you different skills. And the great thing about that is there's a lot of evidence-based techniques that counselors use, cognitive behavioral therapy, all sorts of different things in order to help with different thought processes. So they're a little bit different, but depending on the problem and the person, hypnosis might be the best tool, or maybe counseling might be the best tool. I just always recommend people explore their options, whether that be exploring counselors and hypnotists and medical hypnotists in your own town, also searching for stuff online too, doing your research. I think that's really the best way to find the best tools for the job.
Totally. And, there's even, I know some of the, and this would be the same thing with my practice, it's like it doesn't have to just be one modality to fix an issue. Sometimes doing multiple modalities together can really complement and help move people through any sticky areas. So regarding, let's say, something emotional, mental, or even physical, if it feels kind of stuck, maybe you would work with a psychotherapist and work on that counseling and behavior modifications, and still work with hypnosis to help address the subconscious thoughts. And there's even other modalities out there that focus on the subconscious mind, like neuroemotional technique and emotional freedom technique, and some of these other really powerful techniques out there that are all about helping to, move through stuck or blocked emotions and thoughts in the subconscious mind.
Yeah, when I first started my practice, I was very concerned with being as scientific as possible. Like if someone was seeing me, I didn't really want them seeing anyone else because I wanted to make sure that hypnosis was a thing that was really getting the change. And now I've gotten a little bit older, a little bit wiser. I don't care how many people they're seeing. In fact, I actually encourage them to see other people because that's how you really get the best change. Because, yeah, you might be able to affect some stuff with hypnosis, but if you're also working on the physical side of that, because also I know of a few chiropractors in person. With chiropractic work, you can actually affect the emotional body as well. So if you're working with something on the subconscious and kind of the body as well, it's just you're hitting everything on every angle, and you can get change happening really, really quickly, which is exciting. I think that you get excited about it just like I do.
Yeah, I totally do. And that's the whole team approach that, I really encourage all my pregnant mamas listening is you want to create a team of holistic practitioners that are there supporting you along the way as well as after birth. It's not like, okay, I just have a birth provider like my, OBGYN, and that's all I need to get me through this pregnancy and birth. It's like, no, why not bring in an acupuncturist, a yoga instructor, a massage therapist, a chiropractor, a hypnotherapist or hypnotist? Why not have your team of people, and we're all working together to help support you in having this optimal pregnancy experience. So it just, it makes so much sense. It's just like that's where the best results typically lie. And, personally, I'm somebody who, likes to move quick. So I'm not interested in taking, 6 months for something to resolve. It's like, get to the root cause, resolve it, and let's move forward, And there's lots of ways to get there. So that's pretty cool. I want to just wrap up our interview, Benjamin, with you sharing a little bit more about your website, brilliantside.com, and if you could just tell us about it and what's on there.
Yeah, sure. So if you go to brilliantside.com, I've really tried to take what I do in my private practice and to bring it online because there's a lot of new technology out there that's making a lot of things really customizable and really effective. And so right now I've developed a program to help people with sleep. It's the first of probably many programs that are going to happen. And the great thing about it is most of the time, if you go out to buy a Hypnosis MP3 online, let's say you have trouble sleeping, you go and you buy the MP3, and it's just one MP3 sort of designed to bore you to sleep. And that's not how you get the most meaningful change. Really, you get meaningful change by building up momentum over multiple sessions. And so that's what Brilliant Side is designed to do. There's a sleep test on the site where you can take that. If you have trouble sleeping, it identifies your unique strengths and weaknesses, And then you can take that information and you can run with it on your own, or you can get my sleep program too, which kind of gives you multiple different MP3s, different techniques like mindfulness-based meditation, some other stuff based on cognitive behavioral therapy that's really shown to work and to help with insomnia. So it's something I'm really passionate about, because if you're not sleeping, then it can really impact every aspect of your life, which is really important for new moms and new parents, because you're not going to be sleeping a whole lot at first. Because you are going to be waking up and taking care of that baby. And that's okay. That's okay to have that as a temporary thing. But what I see is a lot of parents where maybe their kid is grown, maybe they're 5 or 6, and they still are waking up multiple times per night. The parent is, for no reason, or they're having trouble sleeping. And that's because their mind has learned that behavior of not sleeping through some of those experiences. And so hypnosis and my sleep program will help retrain your brain so you are sleeping deeper, you're getting that you really want. And that was really the last thing that I wanted to say is leading up to the birth is super important to prepare, but also make sure you take care of yourself after the birth. Go see a chiropractor, go see a massage therapist, go see a hypnotist to help with all of that emotional processing and physical processing that happens after the birth as well.
Totally. I mean, you are, preaching to the choir here. That is definitely my mantra, is mama self-care. And, in general, first-time moms are so good at doing the self-care during their pregnancy. And then once that newborn comes, because it's so many new experiences that come along with being a parent and taking care of a newborn, that the mama self-care can start to get pushed out the window. And it's really crucial to get support, get help, hire a postpartum doula, family, friends, whoever it is, to help you take care of that baby so that you have time to take care of yourself, because self-care is crucial. And then especially then, I also see with second-time moms or third-time moms, or now they're taking care of other children and have a newborn. And, it does take a village to help raise a child. So there's no shame in bringing on additional adults that you trust to help you help raise your child, because we all need that help and support. It's more work than one person can handle, or even two parents, so.
Exactly.
I love that. Thank you for emphasizing that. And Benjamin, thanks once again for coming on our show, Well-Adjusted Mama, and sharing your passion regarding hypnosis.
Thank you so much for having me. This is a wonderful conversation.